Hello. Welcome to the Booth Review Podcast. My name is Carter Gus, and I'm so glad that you're here joining me today for the next half hour or so. It's been another good week, great week actually. Really enjoying everything. Got a new show on Weagle Radio. It's pretty much the same show, but new name. Now it's The Show, 91.1. So I get to say welcome to the show a lot, which is really cool. See, got a coffee today. I'm out of Gatorade, so no Gatorade for me. So I got my Minnie Mouse mug, and I'm enjoying a coffee. So not really much left. It was really hot a few minutes ago when I started, and I burned my tongue a little bit. So hopefully it's not too swollen. I don't trip over my words today. But today is another look at some SEC schools. Two more schools on the chopping block today, Tennessee and Mississippi State. Should be, these are really two completely different teams. Let's be honest, polar opposites. Where do we want to start? Let's start in a more sad place and end on a happy note. I was going to start with Tennessee, but I just changed my mind just now. Let's talk about Mississippi State. Dan Mullen in his 8th season, which is crazy to me. Can we just take a moment? His 8th season? My goodness gracious. I didn't feel like he'd been there for that long, but apparently he has. So 8 seasons. Last year they went 9-4, 4-4 in the SEC. Very, very low expectations for them last year, and they managed to make it to a bowl, which if you told them at the beginning of the season, that would have been crazy, and I feel like it's the same situation this year. Finally starting the post-Dak Prescott era. It's been 2011 since somebody not named Dak Prescott has started at quarterback for the Bulldogs, and that's a long time. So I was looking at it, and do you know what else happened since the last time someone not named Dak Prescott was named or took a snap at as a Bulldog? Let's see. Kate Middleton and Prince William were not married. They weren't married yet. It was the last time someone not named Dak Prescott took a snap. Also, Kim Kardashian and Chris Humphries were married. Charlie Sheen was #winning. And Osama bin Laden was still alive. So that's how long it's been since someone not named Dak Prescott has taken a snap at Mississippi State. So a lot of questions. Nobody really knows what the identity of the team is going to be. So there's a lot of questions there. And when asked about it, Dan Mullen's like, yeah, we have a quarterback competition, which is the story at almost every single SEC school. Every time I look at a school for this review, whatever you want to call it, there's another school that's looking at quarterbacks. This one has 4 quarterbacks. And I read an article that had listed what they all bring to the table, and I thought it was kind of interesting. So let's see. You have Nick Fitzgerald, who is listed as the favorite. Okay. There's Elijah Stanley, who just said has tremendous upside, which means he's not very good. There's Nick Tanio. I don't know how to pronounce that name, who is a leader, which also means he's not that great. And then there's Damian Williams, who is has the most time. He's more experienced. So it's really between Damian and Nick, the first one and the last one I said there. But it's a 4 quarterback competition. Really only 3. But they don't have any idea. They have less idea than anybody else in the SEC. Probably. Maybe. I would say so. But come on, guys. Why is it every single school in the SEC is looking for a new quarterback? I'm about halfway through the SEC, and I've only come across one team. Now, today I'll be looking at my second one in Tennessee that doesn't have a quarterback competition yet. Crazy. But there's a lot of questions there. It's just really who's going to be the quarterback, what's their identity going to be, and they're going to need consistency. Dak Prescott was a great freak athlete. You're not going to have that anymore. Nick Fitzgerald is a runner Yes, but not like Dak Prescott was. Dak Prescott was. I made the comparison earlier, and it was like Cam Newton, except Dak Prescott couldn't throw it as well and was not as fast. But he was still one of those just, like freak athletes that just makes your team better. And they're not going to have that anymore. And remember back 2 years ago when they were ranked number 1 for a few weeks, or a weekend maybe. And then that year they were great. And Dak Prescott had all this talent. And the next year they lost a ton of talent, but they still had Dak. And they went 9-4. Very quietly, 9-4. This year they don't even have that. I don't think they're going to do great this year. Also, I read another article that said that, well, first off, they're getting a new defensive coordinator in Peter Sermon from USC, who's installing a whole new defense. And from what I heard, they replaced everybody on the defensive side, from the coaching staff all the way down to the graduate assistants. So a whole new defense, on top of the fact they have no returning real players on offense. They have an entire new defensive system to install. There's a lot of questions. Huge question marks everywhere for them. But there are less questions on defense as far as personnel is concerned, I think. And some things to really just kind of look out for, some players, some names you'll probably hear a lot about would be A.J. Jefferson and Nick Jones on the defensive line. If they want to have a good year, the two of them, specifically A.J. Jefferson, are going to have to – they're really going to have to step it up because they're going to need all the help they can get from their defense. Richie Brown is one of their linebackers. He's one of the better defensive players in the league this year, or SEC is considered this year. He turned down the NFL draft last year, which is kind of huge and crazy because why would you? That doesn't really happen anymore, but he did. So he's returning, which is huge for them. He had a ton of tackles, solo tackles this year. It was like in the 50s or 60s, I believe. So they're going to need a lot of help from him as well. But let's be honest here. Been kind of critical of Mississippi State. The defensive backfield, their DBs, not that bad. Tolant, I can't even say it. Cleveland and Bryant on the, I'm just going to use their last name. Cleveland and Bryant on the defensive backfield side are two of the best in the league. You're going to get a lot of tipped balls, interceptions, and a lot of incompletions. It's going to be difficult to throw against Mississippi State, which is a good thing. The problem is, will their offense score any points? But their defense will be good. It'll be their defensive backfield will be a shining star amongst the mud. That is the Mississippi State team this year. But they are on the offensive line, though, returning 3 of their starters last year. But which everyone's like, oh, they're returning 3 linemen this year. That's great. Traditionally, that's great. They allowed like 35 sacks last year on Dak Prescott, who's like impossible to tackle. Any other quarterback probably would have even more than that. So all these little pieces, the quarterback situation, the line, which isn't that good, the defensive unit that's getting turned over completely, a new system, a new coaching staff, not many players returning, not really looking that good. And that's really about it with Mississippi State. I looked forever to just get more and more and more information, and it just there's not much. There's not much to look at with Mississippi State. It kind of sucks for them. But I'm gonna go ahead and pull out their schedule here and look at it. Let's see, that's the wrong page because I was ready to do Tennessee first, and I decided I'm gonna do Mississippi State first because why not, right? Admittedly, go ahead and admit up front, I have not very kind to them on their schedule and what I think they're going to do. There is potential for good stuff to happen. There's a lot of potential for bad stuff to happen. I have them going 4-8, 0-8 the SEC. Probably a little bit extreme, but we'll look at it. They start off with South Alabama at home, then South Carolina at home, playing at LSU, UMass at home, Auburn at home, BYU on the road, which is a weird one. Kentucky on the road, Stanford at home, Texas A&M at home, Alabama in Tuscaloosa, Arkansas at home, and then finishing off in the Egg Bowl in Oxford, Mississippi, on the road against Ole Miss. I have them going 0-8 in the SEC. That's probably a little bit extreme. Admittedly, probably a little bit extreme. Be honest with you, that South Carolina game, the Kentucky game, and the Texas A&M game could potentially all be wins for Mississippi State. To be honest with you, they really that's possible. I don't think they'll win all three of those games. They'll probably win at least one of those games, but I don't know. I still have them at 0-8, but it's possible they get 3 wins and go 3-5 in the SEC. That's very possible. I don't see them beating anybody else. The Auburn game, of course, might be interesting depending on what if out of nowhere Mississippi State's actually not as crappy as I think they will be, and Auburn's not as good as many people think they might be, or as I think they will be. If they're both kind of going in opposite directions, maybe that game will be competitive. I don't think so. Alabama's way too much for Mississippi State or almost anybody in the league to handle. Ole Miss also isn't a great team this year, but they're still better than Mississippi State. And I'm sorry because both my parents went to Mississippi State, but it's not going to be a pretty year, I don't think, for Mississippi State. I saw someone had them finishing 4th in the SEC West this year. And I was like, that's crazy. They had them beating South Alabama, South Carolina, UMass, Auburn, BYU, Kentucky, Stanford, Texas A&M, and they basically had them losing like 3 games. And those 3 games would be losing to LSU, Alabama, and Ole Miss, and had them winning all the other ones. I don't think that'll happen. Yeah, I really don't think that'll happen. But, I don't know. Mississippi State, I think, has the potential for the highest high and also potential for the lowest low in the SEC. So I will give them that. They will be the closest to either going really, really good or really, really bad. There's not going to be much in between for them, I don't think. But this will be Dan Mullen's nice season. And really, another question that kind of comes to mind there, just off the top of my head, is how many years is Dan Mullen going to be there? Because let's say this year is a really bad year. Does he stay? Maybe, maybe not. If it's a really good year, does he stay? Yeah, but does he start kind of getting inflated in head with himself and thinking maybe I could go somewhere better, bigger? I don't know. They're looking for another trip to the bowl. I want to say this would be their 6th or 7th consecutive year if they made it to a bowl game this year, which is really big. Big thing for Mississippi State is who is better in the state. Is it them or the team just north of them in Mississippi State and Ole Miss there? So which team is doing better is really big for those Mississippi schools. And right now it seems to be trending in the direction of Ole Miss. So if Mississippi State does have a bad off year this year, the seat below Dan Mullen might be heating up just a smidge. Just a smidge. But let's send it over to the much more exciting, or at least for me anyways, Tennessee Volunteers. And as I say that, I can almost hear Rocky Top just playing in my head. I don't know. I'm very excited for Tennessee. I think they will do really, really well this year. Of course, if you know me, you know I've been saying this for a while now. I have a good friend who's a Tennessee fan as well. He's been selling Tennessee to me for a year and a half now. So I'm finally on the Tennessee train. Let's just look. Last year they went 9-4. I would say they had a great team. One of the best teams Tennessee's been able to put on the field. This is last year. One of the best teams Tennessee's been able to put on the field in a while. At least since a player named Peyton Manning has played, I will say. That is one of the better teams they have played or put on the field. Last year, Joshua Dobbs went threw for almost 2,300 yards and 15 touchdowns through the air and ran for almost 700 yards and 11 touchdowns on the ground. For those of you counting at home, that's 26 touchdowns on the season. Pretty good. Also, the running backs situation there, Jalen Hurd and Alvin Kamara, I believe that's how you say that name. Potentially are one of the best running back duos in the league. So you have one of the better, in my opinion, the SEC Player of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year, and Josh Dobbs, and potentially the best defensive running back duo in the league as well. And Bob Shoop taking over the defense, which is a great hire for them. It's looking up, right? Then, on top of all of that, I have not 1, not 2, not 7, not 10, not 15, but 17. 17 starters returning on offensive defense, plus all their specialists returning. And they're also in an SEC East that has 3 new coaches in the league. New coaches at Georgia, South Carolina, and Missouri. It's kind of setting up for Tennessee. That information alone should tell you what Tennessee is looking at for their season. And is it SEC or bust for Tennessee? I would say so. All the experts, or for the most part, a lot of the experts are saying Florida will win the SEC East. I will say it will come down to Florida and Tennessee. Some people are putting Georgia in there. I don't think so. It'll be down to Florida and Tennessee, and a lot of people are siding with Florida, and I think that's just because Florida won last year. I don't even see it as a competition. Now, Tennessee and Florida will play each other this year, and the winner of that game will win the SEC East. Hands down, no questions asked, that's what's going to happen. I think Tennessee will. But is it SEC or bust for Tennessee? 110% yes. If Tennessee does not win the SEC East, does not win the SEC Championship this year, I'm going to say SEC East, it's a failed season. I think they should win the SEC Championship. But if they don't win the SEC East, it's a failed year for Tennessee. That's what the expectation is. That's where their mindset is, and that's what they need to be looking at. That's what the mindset should be any year. That's what it needs to be. Will they win the SEC East? That is the question. But let's take a little closer look at my favorite for the SEC Offensive Player of the Year, Joshua Dobbs. He is a great player. And as a runner, you check that one off. He's a great runner. He's a leader, check. Poise in the pocket, check. Is he intelligent? Is he smart? Does he know the game, know the play? Check. Is he a great passer? Yeah, maybe. He's good. He is good. He is good. He's going to get help from his wide receiver, Josh Malone Jr. this year. Yes. He needs to be a better passer. That will separate him between a good player and a great player. If he's a good passer this year, a much better passer this year, Heisman Trophy contender, I think so. I think he can compete with a Deshaun Watson for the Heisman Trophy as a quarterback. I honestly think that. And what it's going to come down to is who has the better season. And I'm not talking about stats. I'm talking about who has more wins. Who does more. Because Deshaun Watson doesn't win the ACC championship, and Josh Dobbs does. And they have similar seasons, because I think they will. They're both similar style players. Josh Dobbs might. On top of the fact that people even say Jalen Hurd could win the Heisman Trophy this year, that's a little carried away. But I think Josh Dobbs is good. Josh Dobbs last year had one of the lowest average yardage game per pass than almost anybody in the SEC, and that's behind. He only beat the scrubs of the scrubs. All right, he averaged just under 7 yards. I believe it was 6.6 yards per pass. It's pretty bad. I mean, you don't have to get 20 yards a pass, but you got to throw it down the field. And you got to be effective. It's got to be a threat, more of a threat. Another issue for Tennessee last year was the fourth quarter. They had 4 losses last year. They had 3 fourth quarter blown leads last year. They could have really done great last year if it wasn't for the fourth quarter and the play they had last year. Fun fact, I have a little fun fact written down here. Fun fact for the Tennessee Volunteers, they outscored their opponents 130-52 in the first quarter. They get after it. Problem is, they don't do that in the fourth quarter. They let teams come back on them. So, They need to get that so they need to stay poised, composed, and can be composed when they have the lead. Because they'll have the lead for a lot of this year. Let's be honest. They're good. They're great. They're going to be winning a lot of games. And they're going to be playing with a lead a lot late in games with teams hanging around. Their schedule, not an easy one. The middle of that schedule is brutal. There's a 4-game stretch. It's brutal. They need to learn how to play with the lead and not give away games. As far as the defense is considered under new head coach new defensive coordinator Bob Shoop, Derek Bennett on the outside and Khalil McKenzie on the inside on the defensive line there are going to be forces to be reckoned with. Going to combine for a lot of stops in the backfield. They are really good, y'all. Khalil McKenzie is a, quote, super recruit. That's what he's been called before, to tell you what kind of talent you're getting there on the line. As far as linebackers, it's probably, as a unit, one of the better ones in the SEC, better than the linebackers they have at Alabama. They're going to go defense. The DBs, however, are thin, and it won't be hard to pass deep balls down the middle, down the sidelines against Tennessee, and that is their weakness. That was a weakness last year too. So they lost games late in the game. You can throw against Tennessee. That's the one thing you can do. It's hard to run, but you can throw the ball against Tennessee. So if they're able to make some changes on the defense, especially defensive backfield, they might be able to, and then they can get the passing game better. They were 92nd out of 128 last year in passing offense. Doesn't have to be great. You don't have to be the number 2 team in the nation at passing the ball. That's going to go to Washington State, and Texas Tech. That's okay. You don't have to compete with them in that. But you need to be better. Top third at least. Right? That's not really too much to ask for. At least top half. You don't want to be in the 90s. But they need to be better. People are talking. Rumors are circulating. This could be the best team to play for Tennessee since that 1998 national championship team. Maybe? Just maybe since the last time this team played for a championship, this could be the team to do it. So we will see. Let's take a look at the schedule because it is not an easy one. I do, and like I had with Mississippi State, is a little bit brutal maybe a little bit too harsh on them. Maybe I'm a little bit too optimistic with Tennessee. I do have them going 12-0, 8-0 in the regular season. But their schedule, there's a stretch that is not the kindest, but it starts off pretty easy and ends pretty easy. Let's see, Appalachian State at home, Virginia Tech as a neutral site game, Ohio at home, Florida, and that's the big one, Florida at home, and then right after Florida they go on the road between the hedges to play Georgia, and then again on the road to play Texas A&M, and then back at home to play Alabama, and that would be the 4-game stretch I was talking about. Florida, Georgia, Texas A&M, Alabama, 2 of those games, and the middle 2 games on the road. That'll be brutal. But after Alabama, you go on the road to play South Carolina, and then it's Tennessee Tech, Kentucky, Missouri, all at home, then Vanderbilt on the road, and then in-state rivalry game to finish off the season. So back to the beginning of the schedule, Appalachian State, Virginia Tech, Ohio State, that's 3 wins. 3-0. You're rolling into the Florida game, 3-0. And let me look back at Florida's schedule. Florida will be rolling in playing UMass, Kentucky, and North Texas before that. So Florida will be rolling into that 3-0 as well. So you got 2 3-0 teams, probably 2 very highly ranked teams. That's going to be your 2:30 CBS game. That's probably the one SEC game that I am most excited and looking forward to more than the Alabama-LSU game. This game is the one. This is the SEC versus SEC game that I am most excited for this season, bar none, as a fan of football. Of course, I love the Iron Bowl, but this is the one. And it's early, week 4. So I have Tennessee winning it just off sheer talent and experience and play calling, but that's going to be a tough one. Winner of that game wins the SEC East, but after that you go on the road to play Georgia. What happens? You play Florida and you're spent. You give it all. Then you go play Georgia, who's not going to be. That's not going to be a bad team on the road. That's a tough place to play. That's going to be tough. And then you're playing at Texas A&M. Texas A&M could beat Tennessee. Not because Texas A&M is better, but because they've just played Florida and Georgia. Back to back. They're probably going to have injuries. They're going to be exhausted, spent. That just maybe. And then if they do somehow survive Texas A&M, Georgia, and Florida, then you're playing Alabama in a rivalry game. A huge rivalry game for these two. They hate each other. I don't know how they're going to survive those 4 games. That's brutal. You get a little bit of a rest there with Texas A&M because out of the 4 teams, that's the worst of the 4. But, it looks rough. It does look rough. Then you play South Carolina, who's not going to be good at all. Bonus there. But, again, that one's on the road. So, and those 5 weeks right there, your 2 easiest games are both on the road. So, that's going to stink. But if by some miracle they survive that stretch, this 4 or 5 game stretch, they got Tennessee Tech, Kentucky, Missouri, and then Vanderbilt on the road. Those are all winnable games there. So they're going to win the first 3 games, and they're going to win the last 4 games. What's going to happen in the middle there with Florida, Georgia, Texas A&M, Alabama, and South Carolina? I don't know. That's rough. That's going to suck. That's going to suck. But there you have it. I have Tennessee going 12-0 and 8-0 in the SEC, and obviously that means I have them playing in the SEC championship game. So there you have it. There's my first team that we have covered heading to the SEC championship game. The Tennessee Volunteers for me. That has Florida finishing second in the SEC, and then Georgia, I believe I had them finishing third, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, Georgia would be finishing third in the SEC East. But that is it for today. Looked at 2 teams, Tennessee and Mississippi State. Tennessee is SEC or bust. Mississippi State is just trying to get bowl eligible this year, and that should be their goal. Next week, let's see who am I looking at. Texas A&M and Alabama. So going back to the SEC West, really cranking through the SEC West there, but should be an interesting one for sure. But thank you for joining me. This was a good, fun episode. It is raining and storming once again. It's every time I record these, it storms. Every time. But yeah, as thunder cracks behind me, I am done for today for the Booth Review Podcast. My name is Carter Gustin. Once again, you follow me on Twitter at Carter_Gustin. Check out my website, www.cartergustin.com. That's all lowercase. But thank you for joining me. I'm gonna go go to the grocery store. I need to get food, so I'm gonna go head off to the grocery store and edit this video. But I will see you guys next Wednesday, same time, same place. And as always, have a safe week. Enjoy yourselves. This weekend, football starts back again with the NFL preseason week 1 on Sunday. Finally, no more weekends without live football until February. It is the preseason, but I don't care. It is live football, and I will be watching it. So look out for that Hall of Fame game is this weekend. But just have a great week, and I'll see you guys next week, guys. Have a good and safe rest of your week.